Okay, so sorry, I'm looking at the capture. I play with this pillow in my lap, but I push it out of the way kind of for this trick. Hopefully that's out of the way enough for you to see. Um, so yeah, I make a save state here for practice. I make a save state like taking off Goron mask in this corner, and then I YOLO this angle. You can set up the angle by like targeting the wall and then like turning and walking left a little bit or something like that. But it's easy enough to YOLO it with a bit of practice. Maybe you should make sure you have a good angle set up in advance when you're learning the trick. But um, once you're used to it, it's easy enough to YOLO the angle. The way that I look for the angle is so like that's a pretty decent angle. Oh, I accidentally saved the state there. I guess that's fine. So this is a pretty decent angle, and I know that because I look at the right side of the bomb, and basically there's a little bit of boulder peeking out in between the right side of the bomb and the brown wall. So I think the ideal angle is like a little bit more left facing than this. So, if I could see a little bit more of the boulder there between the bomb and the wall, that would probably be a slightly better angle. And, being toward the center of the range of angles that work, it just makes it so that you don't have to hold as much speed for longer when once you get the A slide, you don't have to keep as much speed for as long to get all the way through and out the other side. So, but yeah, this is definitely good enough. So I'll just keep this state and show what I do. So once I see that I have this angle, I'm holding the controller like this, which is my normal my normal way of holding the controller. As soon as I see that I have this angle, I switch to this grip. And I'm also like finding a good spot to like press the controller against my body. So like this left hand is not only holding down the target button, it's also, well, I guess first of all, oh yeah, so I guess the first thing that happens is I'm holding target with my middle finger like I normally do, but then I seamlessly transition it to hold it with my thumb without releasing it, so that I keep this angle that I just set up. Anyway, yeah, then I I'm holding it with my thumb, and I'm also using this force from this kind of from mostly from the thumb to like sandwich the or like not sandwich, but like to press the controller against my body. You're gonna have to figure out what works for your body to hold the controller steady. But this something like this works for me, um, and then yeah. So I'm also my middle finger is like starting to depress the R button because I'm gonna press shield with my middle finger of my left hand here, and my right hand at the same time that I press shield, my right hand pinky is actually going to press the A button to roll. But then I'm gonna keep holding shield because you actually need to hold shield to clip. Well, to go all the way through. Holding shield changes your animation for this, and that's the glitchy animation is what lets you get through with an A slide. Otherwise, you could just get through with a Hess or whatever. Um, okay, so yeah, the middle finger of my left hand for this, while I'm still holding target with this thumb, rolling here, and then after I roll, I'm immediately moving this hand over to do this, and that's gonna be hard to see, I guess. Yeah, it's really hard to. It's just how am I supposed to show this? I'm pressing the control. Can I move this finger out of the way? I'm pressing the control stick down like this. This is ridiculous. Yeah, so basically my middle finger uh of my right hand is kind of at like 11 o'clock on the control stick, and my ring finger of my right hand is at like 1 o'clock, and so I'm pushing it down with both of them at the same time so that it kind of sandwiches the stick a little bit, and that's so that the stick doesn't move too far left or right. You can probably do it just fine with one finger, In fact, I seem to be doing better with just one finger right now, but I'm also holding it in an awkward way that I'm not used to. I don't know. Maybe my strat of sandwiching the stick is not actually good, but that's what I've been doing. Anyway, that's what I do, and yeah, just keep holding L and R with my left hand, and then I just mash the stick like that. Um, that was a late roll, maybe. Okay, so that was like a pretty good mash. Uh, if you get a good mash, you're gonna keep your speed all the way into the load zone like that, and you'll basically just see the velocity tick down from pretty slowly like that, but like I think it's like 1.5 at a time every time you spend an extra frame in neutral or an extra frame in down. But yeah, you want to just try to mash like something like maybe 8 times a second is probably about how fast I'm mashing. Maybe a little slower than that even. You don't have to mash that fast with a decent angle. And in fact, you don't want to mash too fast. I don't think. Like, I think if you were to mash perfectly 10 times a second, then it would make each of those mashes more precise, because if you do one of them slightly too, if you do it 11, if you're mashing 11 times a second, or even if you're mashing 10 times a second, then you accidentally do one slightly too fast, then you could miss a frame of being in neutral or miss a frame of being in down and go back. You could have frames where you're just skipping one of the two control stick positions that matter and lose speed that way, I think. I assume that's how it could work. Maybe input frames matter, and if you're mashing 20 times a second, it still works because you're alternating input frames. I don't know. I don't really understand how the trick works. I just have a sense of what has helped me get good at it. So that's how I think about the mash. If you're getting the initial speed, which is minus 18, and then losing it after that, I guess there's 3 different ways that can happen. One is just the obvious, like you fail to mash, like your wrist does not respond correctly to your brain, and you miss or something. You miss the stick, or like you just don't. Your wrist doesn't move enough or whatever. So that one you will probably notice if that happens. But like the other two are sometimes hard to distinguish or hard to know exactly what's going on. But one of them is basically related to the y-axis. So you can just look at these kz values of what your stick is doing. There's basically failing it along the y-axis and failing it along the x-axis is how I think about it. So if you're mashing in such a way like this would be a very extreme example. I'm like not even going back down to 0. Like, I guess I'm not letting the stick go back up so that the value returns to 0. I'm like staying too long in down. So like it sounds, if you just listen to the sound, ignore my terrible left right axis values there, by the way. If you're doing something like this, it might sound, based on the sound of you hitting the notch, it might sound like you're doing a good mash, but if you're not returning all the way to neutral, and in fact you want to try very hard to spend approximately as much time down as in neutral, which takes some getting used to. So you really kind of do need to like release the stick every time, which, yeah. Again, all of this just takes a lot of practice and getting used to, and you'll eventually just have a good feel for it. But yeah, so if you, but yeah, failing it with the y-axis type, failing it in the y-axis type of way, you can probably tell if you're like practicing your mash and looking at the kz values here, kz input display, input reader, whatever, and it looks like it's just never returning to 0. Or it's very rarely returning to 0. You're just spending too much time in down. And maybe it's possible to do it the other way as well, where you're like not flicking far enough, you're like spending too much time. I don't know. That probably is hard to do with like realistic human movement, hand movement speed. But yeah, that's one way of failing it, is like you're just not alternating, you're not spending the correct amount of time in each control stick position. like vertical control stick position. The other way is you're just sloppy mashing and it's like going all over the place and it's you know it's the control stick is going way left and right. I think if you mash like down left or something and then let it return all the way to neutral, I think theoretically this could be fine. Like, so what I'm saying is when it's down, it can be a little bit left or right, or even a lot left or right, and it won't kill your speed. But when you're neutral, if you have like ESS position or farther out, that will kill your speed, I'm pretty sure. And I think that will always kill it immediately. I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, you definitely don't want to have a sloppy mash so that it's, if you see the X value there moving around a lot, that's something you need to work on. It should pretty much always be 0. If it's a little bit outside of neutral, I think it's generally fine, or maybe you just get lucky and it usually works. But yeah, there's that. What else have I not explained yet? I think that's pretty much it for how I think about the mash. Mostly it just takes a lot of practice. And then, oh yeah, but yeah, if you're not getting speed at all, if you're not getting the -18 speed in the first place, that is always because of either your roll frame or your first down tap frame. So the roll frame is just normal Hess frames. So there's 2 frames that work for the roll, but the down tap frame is frame perfect for this particular A slide. Apparently for normal, I haven't verified this for myself. This is what I've heard. So again, I don't understand frame data. I don't know these types of things. I just do what feels like it makes it more consistent. So yeah, so apparently for normal A slides, you can roll on either Hess frame, and then you can start your first down tap can be on what would be either of the mega flip frames that would work. Or like any mega flip frames that would work. If you rolled on one of the 2 Hess frames. But for this, apparently, something to do with this boulder being here makes it so that you have to press down for the first time on the last, or maybe it's just that you can't be in neutral on the last like possible down tap frame. I don't know. The way that I think about it is I have to be holding down during the first frame that Link can move. So no, that's not true. Okay, if I roll on the first Hess frame, I have to be holding down during the second frame that Link can move. If I roll on the second Hess frame, I have to be holding down during the first frame that Link can move after the roll ends. And I think it can be helpful to intentionally like make your first down tap a little bit longer. Like hold down just slightly, like try to hold down for like 2 frames instead of 1 on that very first tap before you start your mash. Because if you start your mash full speed immediately, just trying to get like 1 frame and down every time, or like slightly more than 1 frame and down, but not even close to 2 frames, I think you're just at a higher risk of skipping over the moment when the game pulls for that input. And you could get into a situation where you could have it happen where you tap down, and this is actually during the correct frame. This is during that last, what would be the last backflip frame if we're talking about a mega flip, but not at the right point during the frame where it pulls for the input that matters. I'm not 100% sure if this is real, but that's thinking about it as if that were real has seemed to help make the trick more consistent for me. For whatever reason, I think holding down a little bit longer for that very first tap can help. I mean, I guess it can also help just because if you're early on that down tap, it doesn't matter, I think. Not actually sure if that's true either. Don't listen to the specific things I say. Just listen to the general idea of how I do it. Okay, so anyway, that down tap is the hardest part of the trick, honestly. Once you have practiced the mash, I think the down tap is the hardest part of the trick. And I mean, that's certainly how I fail it in runs most often. But yeah, so just watch your velocity. If you don't get the minus 18, you probably failed the down tap, unless you failed the roll frame, which you should be able to recognize if you're good enough at the game to even consider going for this in runs. I'm sorry. If you can't recognize a bad Hess frame roll, you're watching the wrong video, buddy. Uh, no offense. I'm just saying this trick is extremely hard. Do not go for this trick if you are not extremely good at the game. Uh, yeah. Mainly it's not even like good at the game. It's just like, do you want to spend an insane amount of time practicing it? That's all it is, really. But yeah, so if you don't get the minus 18, that's what went wrong. If you get the minus 18, but then you quickly lose that speed, it's because your mash was somehow bad for one of the 3 reasons I laid out earlier. I think I explained everything with the angle. Like if you have an angle slightly off from like the ideal angle, it will take a little bit longer to get through, so you need to keep a little bit more speed for a little bit longer. But yeah, if you have good speed, you should go all the way. You should go all the way into the. See, that was not full speed, so I messed up. These are all bad first taps. I think probably late. There I intentionally held down way longer, and it helped a lot, so. Yeah, I think that really is a good strat for whatever reason. To intentionally hold down a little bit longer. But yeah, it should look like those where you go all the way into the load zone really fast. If you have a sloppy mash, you're gonna lose speed and maybe stop before you get to the load zone, even if you manage to clip. But I don't know. I think that's about it. Yeah, let me know if you have questions.